Okay, remember that they're changing the sound of my voice, and they did something funny to the mask I purchased, and they have a weird effect on the way I sound on top of everything else. But the fumes also in the air also change the way I sound. You can tell by how they've been sabotaging me, that they're jealous of me. They know their genes and their families and their cultures have failed them, and they know that I'm right. So these are the rules of engagement in combat, part 2. Point number 13. Other people have never been the master of me, and they will never be. Their petty interference cannot change what is true, and it makes them, their groups, teachers, families, and governments more pathetic. Curses on them. I'm absolutely right and authorized by God to curse people and their offspring. God knows that what I'm doing is right and what they're doing is wrong, and that it's not right for them and their offspring to have anything worthwhile, ever. While they're here, they'll pretend that they do with mere money, stuff like that, but they'll never truly have anything worthwhile, and they can thank themselves for their pathetic failure, and also their forefathers for their part in it. Point number 14. During my time, especially when I was younger, people would ask, what would Jesus do? Well, they would picture a false Messiah that they wanted them to think of as a long-haired and feminine, sissy Nordic type. So they wanted them to picture a false Messiah that was a long-haired and sissy and a feminine Nordic type. And that mixed with a common person who identifies as a Jew or a white Jew. Obviously, what I would do, even through sabotage, and why, is the real question. Not their sick, organized rapist and child molester energy infused Luciferian dog fake Jesus. So not their sick, organized rapist and child molester energy infused Luciferian dog fake Jesus. I am the Son of God in truth. Zeus is a sick dog form of that false image creating, organized rape by deception, coercion and force demon Set. So Set's a demon of rape by deception, coercion and force. Now they're trying to do things to try to make it harder for me to talk, make it harder to listen to me. Okay, but it doesn't take a genius to see that I'm right, and that they've resorted to these things because they are inferior. People who are equal or greater do not resort to the things that they're doing. Again, people who are equal or greater, people who know what they're doing in life, they don't resort to the types of things that they're doing. It is an extreme disgrace on them and their families, their country, you name it, their religions. What are their offspring? The offspring of abominations. And they know that beyond a reasonable doubt. They are rather toxic and pitiful beings. And God expects you to be much more mature than the type of idiots who are stupid enough to follow them. Point number 15. Let us now use examples of more specific situations. The other day, someone who presented himself as a gang member in red put his head up at me while riding a bike past me. Obviously, I am not a gang member, and I do not think like one. I chose to walk by, and in the sense that I did not respond, I chose to overlook the offense that comes from the governing class, through their military cowards and other groups, and finally their civilian servants. So in that sense, I didn't overlook the offense in the sense that I'm going to punish everyone according to their deeds, but in the sense that I didn't respond then and there. In that sense, I overlooked it. The person seemed like a somewhat nice male, but he is possessed by the spirit of the global governing class, which is Satan's dragon spirit, which is in all nations, including and especially America. Those of you who sink to the level of needing to see it in the Bible, I believe it's in Jeremiah where it says, Nebuchadnezzar has swallowed us whole like a serpent. And Nebuchadnezzar has swallowed the Jews in the story whole. Now, who was Nebuchadnezzar? Right, from the governing class, from Babylon's system. He was an emperor. Okay, so be it the Pope or the leaders of the Orthodox and Protestant movements, or the mosques, the synagogues, be it the governments of the world, they're all part of Babylon's system on that higher up level, or rather lower down level, sort of semantics, but you see what I'm saying. Unless you're an idiot or something. If you have any questions, put in the comments. Okay. So all the nations are in that serpent spirit, including and especially America, as they chose to go out like complete punks and to persecute me instead of standing with me, showing the essence of their spirits, their family spirits, their ancestors, where their head's at, where their heart's at, okay, showing they have no understanding of life whatsoever. So why or why not confront them and start the back and forth war? I do not care that I'm by Detroit, and it makes the greater Detroit area, including Southfield, a dangerous area. I am obviously the toughest and most dangerous person that will ever live. Other people think like a mere craftsman or nerd or a mere American soldier in the military, right? Just some kind of puppets, some kind of fools. They do not even think like a warrior in the first place. So obviously I'm not moved in the slightest by them. And even if they did think like a warrior, I'm the top martial artist ever possible. It's open and shut. My opinion is the only one that really matters. My mission comes first, and mere gang stalkers are scared servants of the sissy, pedo-aligned governing class. I would be better off finding a rich person and slitting their throat, but that too isn't enough and is counterproductive. So how does the heavenly warrior defeat the beast? While God's angels grab Satan and put him where those who challenge the top martial artists' right to lead, especially by their actions, go. Obviously I trample Satan in the next week. Satan's followers hid from my challenge their whole families like complete bitches. They couldn't dream of accepting my challenge fair and square, be it sparring or single combat, because they are nobodies, and the Lord is a warrior, not a mere scientist or craftsman or nerd, not a mere soldier or MMA fighter. The Lord is a martial arts warrior. That is his spirit. I beat them by ignoring the pathetic advice of other people and walking in the highest warrior path, walking on the highest warrior path to God's right hand. Killing someone for a warrior as decisive as I am is easy. And people get killed all the time. Now, if I was someone who obeyed God through me instead of being me, depending on the situation, I would explain why they are wrong, even though the government might have caused their head to go up. So when people, when people's heads go up, and it happened to me before, it might be because the government hacked their brain, okay? Remotely, causing their head to go up. But one way or another, they're outside the divine order. So if I was somebody else, I would explain them and say, hey, that's not smart. Okay, Christ is above everyone, so on and so forth. Okay. This is the end of all moral paths and the final transcendent clash, and whites, Jews, LGBT people, token minorities, gang members, and everyone else outside the divine order are not smart or spiritual enough to understand the things of God and true men. I exist in a state that is infinitely above occultists and the rich, as they are like gang stalkers. They're nobodies to God, and I'm the greatest man that will ever have lived. I am above all, and as such I glorify God by just being me, especially through sabotage. Even in their wordplay, the word above is a play on words for Obi-Vi, Obi-Av, and Ebo-Vi. Remember, Obi means King, Heart, Hut, Essence, Center, Temple, Core in the Ebo language. Okay? Obi in its narrowest sense refers to me. When all Kung Fu, Karate, Taekwondo practitioners and other profane martial artists on some level wish they were the divine God's Son. The one true God's Son. God's Son who is divine. Also, there's a difference between being wise, decisive, and victorious. Right? There's a difference between being wise, decisive, and victorious, and being cocky. I'm not cocky. I'm wise, decisive, and victorious. Point number 16. Even though I wrote quite a few sentences in the point above, in point 15, I did not cover the last point as I could, to the fullest, as I can go on and on forever trying to pick my words or otherwise. As I'm sure you have noticed, gays do not think straight, and whites and white Jews did not cultivate martial arts for generations. Okay, now why do I say this? I say this, obviously I'm not racist. I don't single out sinners because of, mere emotions. I say this because white, Jew, and LGBT elitists are leading the charge against me, okay? And they're trying to pretend that they're superior. And there's very easy ways to prove that that's not the case. And one of them is by highlighting that they did not cultivate martial arts for generations. Monotheistic martial arts, mere fighting arts, mere brute force arts, mere musket arts, if you will, mere frontiersmen, colonists with muskets, mere soldiers in the British, Navy or whatever. They didn't cultivate the martial arts of God. So there's nothing they can say. With the technologies they have, no serious person believes it. It's that simple. So now think about the Bible, right? The Bible confuses things in that it makes it seem like the story is what it isn't and what it wasn't, where it's like a mix between the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. And it downplays the significance of Genesis 10, where it says Nimrod was a mighty warrior for the Lord. What that represents, right? Nimrod represents a people or an ancestor. Think about Israel and the Israelites. He represents a grouping of people, a grouping of Cushites. Okay? Ham begot Cush, Cush begot Nimrod, right? A grouping of people who are the descendants of Ham, who were the mighty martial artists of old, who get confused by the Tower of Babel about who they are. And then over time, right, Amos comes around and says, are you not the same as the Cushites unto me, O children of Israel? And what he's saying is somewhere, somehow, the true leader of all humanity is a Cushite. Because the Lord is the warrior, right? Moses said the Lord is the warrior, the Lord is his name. Like father, like son. And Proverbs 17:2 says, a prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son and share the inheritance of one of the family. And Christ is a character in the story overkilled it in the parable of the tenants, where he said the kingdom of heaven will be taken away from you and given to a people who will perform its works. So as I look at who's opposing me, it's like the Philistines were emphasized as opposing the Jews more than most. The whites, the Jews, and the LGBT community come from their governing class, were emphasized as opposing God and I the most. And they've bent over backwards and spent billions of dollars on propaganda to confuse who's the most in the wrong. All nations of this world, which is all the nations in this world, Iran, America, China, England, you name it, they're all satanic. And they're all clearly in the wrong. But Iran and Palestine and whatever, they're not leading the charge against God as much as Israel and Europe and America are. The global white families of the governing class, the global Jews, and the LGBT community. And I judge people according to their deeds as individuals and groups. Again, Israel and the Israelites, Cush and the Cushites, right? As individuals and as groups. Who did they yoke themselves to? What spirit are they in? Who do they follow, right? The snake in the garden, Nebuchadnezzar, the emperor, the cult of the emperor, the cult of the governing class, the cult of the cowards who accept the boundaries of the governing class like a mere beast, and the whores who sleep with the trash as the governing class allows them to. The pure enemies of God.